You are live. Welcome to the Shoy Show. This is session 2 on June 10th, 2026. Live your life. Live your life. Whatever you want to do, go do it. All right, let's start the show. I like topics like this. Not because of what happened, of course, but it's extremely polarizing. And everyone has something to say about it. They're calling it racist. They're saying these are children. They're saying he should be tried as an adult. But let's look at the facts of this story. We've examined it before. Again, it's a travesty. Carmelo Anthony from Texas. He was found guilty of murder, sentenced to 35 years in prison for fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a Frisco, Texas high school track meet in April 2025. There was a dispute under a team tent. There was a track meet that involved at least 8 schools. Anthony had gone under the tent. Anthony had gone under the tent because it started raining. Austin Metcalf walks over, confronts him about being there. Things escalated, and Anthony stabbed Metcalf once in the chest with a knife. Anthony's defense was basically, I was scared, I acted in self-defense. Prosecutor said it was not self-defense and called it murder. The jury sided with prosecutors. Both of them 17 years old. Of course, this is a travesty. However, let's get to some things here, right? And this is going to be a piercing topic. It's going to be a very difficult topic to go through. But look, first of all, let's break it down. They're both 17 years old. So by that definition, they're both minors. Why does one have a knife and one doesn't? I'm not sure. From the looks of it, that looks like a fairly small tent. I don't know how long that is, but looks like a fairly small tent. The other teams didn't have tents. So Carmelo Anthony walks over to the tent and tries to shield himself from the rain. Here are the facts, right? We want to go through the facts here. So they were at the same track meet. It started raining. He went under Memorial High School's team's tent. Austin Metcalf questions him along with other Memorial athletes. They told him to leave, that he shouldn't be there. The argument escalated. Metcalf pushes and shoves Anthony, and then Anthony takes out a knife and stabs him once in the chest. For that, he got 35 years. Now, let's break this down because they're children. And I think one healthy exercise for us to do here is just remove the color barrier here, because there is one. Don't act like there's not stereotypes or there's no racism here. But in order to do that, in order to proceed with the argument, let's at least remove the element of race. So let's just make both of them either black, both of them white, or let's just discount the color altogether. I think that's the healthiest way to go about this. So they are neither here nor there. They're no color. Okay, so we have two 17-year-olds showing up to a high school track meet. High school. Now, I have to mention this because nothing is obvious. They're 17 years old. I'm not going to say they don't know nothing, but they're 17 years old. Yes, they have a moral compass. Yes, they know right from wrong, but they're 17. Are you really going to blame a 17-year-old for doing pretty much anything? No, they don't have they don't have their full head on their shoulders. Last time I checked, 17-year-olds are fairly easy to manipulate or trick or deceive. That's why they're 17. They have not grown up yet. They are considered children. Now, the defense argued that track meets are loose and chaotic. Kids walk around, and students from different schools sometimes go under other teams' tents during downtime. It was raining in this case. Anthony's coach testified he wasn't aware of a clear policy banning students from sitting under another team's tent, though he also said if a student was asked to leave, he'd expect them to leave. So the way this works is someone else, an outsider, if you will, right? Anthony, he comes and sits in their area where there's only Memorial High School students. Kids clearly want to protect their domain. They're territorial like anyone else. And they tell Anthony, yo, get out of here. Get out of here. Like, you don't belong here, right? Is that a race thing? Who knows? But again, we're going to discount the race. If something racial is said, we'll call it out. But is that a race thing? So far, it's, yo, you're not from this team. You're not from this school. You're not friends with us. So get out from under our tent. Okay. So far, all right. Now, I would think, these kids wouldn't be little snobby, I don't know why you would tell somebody to leave from under your tent if it's raining. That to me just seems wrong. Not inhumane, but, you don't have to be a little shit about it. Again, I'm not going to make any assumptions here. But if they're throwing him out while it's raining, people are just coming to get some cover. It's like, all right, like, what exactly is happening here, right? Now, Anthony was at the meet because he was a Centennial High School student / athlete, and they were at the same district track meet. It was raining, and according to defense arguments, he went to the memorial tent to get out of the rain because he knew someone there. Okay, so according to the defense, he knew someone there under the tent. A defense version even framed it like this: he thought he knew people at Memorial, and someone greeted him or let him come in. The prosecution's version was different. Anthony entered a closed team tent. Anthony entered a closed team tent uninvited, refused to leave, provoked the confrontation, and kept a knife hidden in his bag. Now, I think one of the first questions is, and we weren't there, right? But do you think Anthony, look, again, remove race out of the equation because it's not going to help the argument. It's not. Is race a factor? Yes, but just remove it out of the equation because it's extremely polarizing, and we can bring that element back into the synopsis, if you will, later on. We're just going to put that on hold for a second. First, I got to ask, right? I'm not on no one's side. It's a travesty. But I got to ask, why does he have a knife? Well, I live in New York City, and a lot of people have knives. I don't walk around with a knife. People walk around with knives and guns. It happens. A lot of people walk around with mace or a knife. Why? Because we got people pushing each other on trains. We got some crazy people out here in the streets. Shit happens. I can understand someone wanting to defend themselves. Carrying a knife, I don't really agree with it, but I'm not going to hold that against someone. I'm not defending it. And let me tell you what I would say in the street to one of my friends. Why the fuck did he have a knife? I'm going to just say it just like that. Because I can't really understand that defense. Do we have all the facts? Maybe Carmelo Anthony got jumped before. Maybe Carmelo Anthony, he's had some traumatic experiences. Maybe somebody told him to carry a knife for his protection. Who knows? But the question I really want to get to is, do you think that he went there trying to stab Austin Metcalf? Like, did he wake up that day and say, I want to go kill somebody? We got to make the assumption that the answer is no, because the answer is usually no, because 99% of us don't wake up with those irrational thoughts. Why didn't he kill anyone before that day? This looks like, and I don't want to jump to the conclusion here, but this looks like tempers flared, and in the heat of the moment, he killed someone. Should it be murder? Probably manslaughter. From everything that I'm reading, this should probably be manslaughter. And that's why they're appealing right now. Again, I'm not defending anyone. Now, this was on April 2nd, 2025. It was around 10 a.m. They're at the track meet. More than 100 students from 8 schools were there. It started raining hard, so students were trying to get undercover. I mean, personally, at 17 years old, I can't really remember myself so well, but I don't give a shit who it is. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if you look like a zombie, a gremlin, a troll. I don't care what it is. If it starts raining hard and you're seeking cover where I am, I don't own shit in this world. I don't understand why your reaction, anyone's reaction for that matter, would be so visceral to say, get out from here. You can't be over here. Like, what are you guys doing? It's a fucking track meet. What are you guys strategizing? It's not like this is a basketball huddle where in the heat of the game, you guys are trying to come up with a play. It's a fucking track meet. So I'm just trying to attack this from every single angle. I don't understand why, if you're saying this is what happened allegedly, multiple students told Carmelo Anthony to leave. I'll look at it from the flip side. Why didn't Carmelo Anthony leave? If I'm 17 years old, and it doesn't matter what age you are. Right now, if somebody told me to leave, I would probably be like, really? And they'd be like, yeah. And I would probably just be like, all right, that's fine. I'm not wanted here, so I'm just going to leave. I don't want to upset anyone. That's how I've always been in my life. I would apologize and just leave. I would think that those people, are pieces of shit because why would you ask somebody to go out while it's raining? Well, it's raining hard outside and you have a stupid tent that has space. Why would you push me away? Now, maybe it was racial. I don't know, but we're going to leave that aside for now because we want to discount that. Because no matter what was said, let's say Austin Metcalf used a racial slur or one of the kids did. I don't want to make up anything, but that doesn't warrant anybody getting stabbed. I don't care what age you are. Again, is that murder or manslaughter? We're just going through the facts here. So Anthony goes under Memorial's tent. Anthony was from Centennial High School. Memorial students were under their own pop-up tent. According to trial testimony and police documents, Anthony sat under the Memorial tent during the rain. One witness said another teammate asked basically, who's this guy? Anthony allegedly replied, I'm a nobody. Another student told him to get out if he was nobody. Witnesses said Anthony refused to leave and cursed at them. Austin then tells him to leave. Austin, being a Memorial athlete, confronted him because Anthony wasn't part of their team. Again, territorial. One witness said that Anthony was asked to leave many times, saying that he was asked to leave about 15 times. Anthony allegedly, well, what does that mean, right? Leave, just get out of here, leave, get out of here, leave. It's not 15 times over fucking 2 hours, right? They probably were all telling him to leave. Now they're about to they're starting to argue, things are escalating. They probably told him to leave repeatedly. I don't doubt that. 15 times? Yeah, if you're yelling at someone, probably going to say it 15 times. Several witnesses said Anthony had his hand in or near his bag and said something like, touch me and see what happens. Normal response, you guys are about to fight, right? Another witness said Austin responded, I'm not going to fight you. Then Austin pushes/shoves Anthony. This is one of the key disputed parts. Witnesses agreed there was physical contact, but they differed on how hard it was. Some described it as a two-handed push, like a lineman move, others as a similar one-handed shove. The defense emphasized Anthony was seated, smaller, and felt cornered. Prosecutors said Anthony provoked the shove and had no right to answer a push with a knife. I think we can all agree with that. If someone's punching you in the face, it just depends. It depends on the situation. But you can't tell someone, or you can't possibly expect how someone is going to react in a situation like that, especially when it's that heated. At that point, your adrenaline is so high, you're probably fearing for your life. You don't know what's going to happen. Anthony then pulls out a folding knife and stabbed Austin once. The medical examiner testified the knife went into Austin's chest and penetrated his heart. The wound was not survivable. Witnesses said Anthony moved away after the stabbing. Police later recovered the knife in the bleachers. During the arrest, Anthony reportedly said, "I was protecting myself," and he put his hands on me. When an officer called him the alleged suspect, Anthony reportedly said, "I'm not alleged, I did it." He also asked whether Metcalf was going to be okay and whether it could be considered self-defense. That's according to police. Is he going to be okay? That's what he's asking the police. So how vicious do you think a child is in this case? Look, man, let me really get to it, right? Because this is, I guess, the juicy stuff. And I don't give a shit about clickbait or anything like that. This is such a polarizing debate. Now, of course, we do need to look at different case studies, right? You have to look at this from all angles. From the Carmelo side, why does he have a knife? Why didn't he leave? He's not wanted there. It's not your tent. And it's like, whether it's your tent or not, these are Memorial High School students. If they're being snobby, let's say, just leave, man. They're being threatening, menacing, whatever. They're being nasty to you. Just leave. I don't know that I want to take a stand in that situation. He's 17 years old. I'm not going to say he knows better or he doesn't. Who the fuck knows? But he's 17. He answered a push with a shove. Sorry. He answered a push with a knife. And he stabbed him. He also asked about Anthony's status. To me, that immediately tells you that he actually cared about this human being. It was a tense situation. It was two stupid children, one pushing one away to go step out in the rain, the other trying to defend himself and saying, "This is stupid. I don't know why I would go in the rain. Why can't I just sit under the tent?" Whatever. Tempers flare. I would say it's a very stupid argument either way. But guess what? We have to excuse them because not only are we the jury here, currently the jury of public opinion, but they're 17 years old. We can't forget that. They are 17. I'm just going to go out there and say that, they're just too young. It's just, they don't know any better. I'm not saying kids are stupid, but they don't know any better. On the flip side, and then still on Carmelo Anthony's side, everyone that is defending him is saying it's self-defense. It's saying that, the kid was essentially misled. Okay, so now we understand all the facts on Carmelo Anthony's side. Now let's look at Austin Metcalf's side. He's sitting there. He's probably trying to defend Memorial High School's tent. They're territorial. They're saying, "Get out of here." They warn him multiple times. He pushes first. Hey, that's kind of important here, right? Because whoever hits who first matters. Does a push warrant a knife? I would say absolutely not. No. It can't escalate to that level in that short a time. It can't. So I can see Austin Metcalf's defense. Now, let's talk about who's defending Austin Metcalf. Everybody that's on his side, including his family, let me remind us, they have every right to react the way that they are. They could ask for the death penalty. Look, if he was 12 years old, I would say that's absurd. He's still a kid, Carmelo Anthony. I'm just trying to look at both sides here. They can ask for whatever they want. They are the family. They are the one that had the person killed. Whether it's justified, whether it's right in the court of public opinion or in your eyes, that's your opinion. That's totally fine. But I'm just making sure We have all the facts here. Everyone in Carmelo Anthony's corner is defending him for a plethora of reasons. He's a good kid. He asked, whether he was okay or not. Did he actually mean to do it? His adrenaline was pumping. You guys are about to fight. Again, I'm not going to agree with a fucking knife. I'm not. Who knows how many people were around Austin Metcalf, right? Maybe he really felt threatened. The way the defense was painting it was that he felt cornered here. Anthony was scared. This is what the defense argued. They're arguing self-defense. Anthony was scared, smaller, seated, and reacted in chaos. This guy gets up, pushed him. Prosecutors argued he provoked the confrontation, hid the knife, and used lethal force against non-lethal force. Now, you got to ask this question. Do you think a 17-year-old actually understands the ramifications in the moment? Hell no. I have been 17, and I can barely remember that age, but you can't register the consequences. That's the reason why so many people drive drunk, right? I can guarantee you that every single person on this earth deserves at least 5 DWIs minimum. Everybody has had enough to drink. They were probably over the limit, but they're not driving carelessly or recklessly. But that's a very important line that the prosecutors used, which is using lethal force against non-lethal force. Now, of course, a push can kill someone, but come on. I mean, yes, we have to get into semantics here. But the outrage that I could see for the most part, I don't want to ruin a kid's life. They're children. They are children. We're adding insult to injury. Like we're killing 2 lives here. Did he deserve to die? Hell no. You cannot blame Austin Metcalf's family for how they're reacting. They could ask for the moon in the courts. Of course, you would expect Carmelo Anthony's family to defend him, that he was a good kid. This is a video showing, they're like, oh, you never show the good side of these kids, right?
That's the cruise going on?
Yeah, there's a cruise going on.
That's freedom of the sea.
I got him, Kayla. I got him.
Carmelo Anthony, class of 2025, Centennial High School, Frisco, Texas.
I mean, yeah, he was probably a good kid. No one's doubting that. But again, if the roles were reversed, again, I don't give a shit about race here. It's not even important to mention. Everyone's trying to talk about race here. And that's why it's such an interesting topic, because you got to hit this from every angle. Again, it was a travesty. Am I mad at Austin Metcalf's camp? Absolutely not. They don't have this man. They don't have Austin Metcalf in their lives anymore. It doesn't matter what they ask for in court. They're totally justified. Carmelo Anthony made a grave mistake, as grave as it gets on this earth. He's getting 35 years. Again, I don't know if it constitutes murder. Is it murder? If I come home and my wife is cheating on me and I grab a baseball bat and I bash their heads in, that's manslaughter. I mean, you have to prove that in court, but that's manslaughter, right? Or if I accidentally kill someone in the street while driving, it's manslaughter, right? He asks, is Austin Metcalf going to be okay to the police? Does Carmelo Anthony deserve some type of punishment? I don't know. I don't want to fucking, I'm not trying to, convict children here. And I don't give a shit which way it was. That's why I'm saying remove the element of race, because it really is not serving a place in this argument. It hasn't so far. I haven't heard a good argument as to how race has affected this, other than the court of public opinion. So the case really turns into this. Was Anthony a scared kid trapped in a tense confrontation? Absolutely. If you're telling me that the majority of the kids there were from Memorial High School, he's an outsider, of course he's going to feel alone. He's going to feel a little trapped. I don't give a shit. Race has nothing to do with it. I'm going to feel a little worried if I see a whole bunch of, kids from another school. Remember how extreme this situation is in the children's eyes. Did he react in chaos? Yes, it's chaotic. When someone is threatening you like that, when someone is, standing in front of you like that, like, yo, you gotta leave, and you guys are in a confrontation, it's like the world is imploding in front of you. Is this a big deal outside looking in? Absolutely not. You would just say that these are high school kids. But to the kid, the trauma that they're experiencing, I'm sure both of them were scared, right? I'm sure their adrenaline was pumping. One pulls out a knife, which just is not warranted, which I think it's the most important part of the case. The most important part of the case, in my opinion, is the fact that one person cannot defend themselves. You can't defend yourself with a knife. Now, of course, you have to look at other cases, right? You look at something like Trayvon Martin, again, remove the element of race. But there have been other cases in the United States where, someone punches somebody, the other one shoots them, and they say it was self-defense. In that regard, Carmelo Anthony and his family certainly have an argument. But the case is so much heavier on the Austin Metcalf side because they're the ones that lost the life. So there's an argument on both sides because we are essentially ruining Carmelo Anthony's life. We're ruining his life right now. And you might be saying he ruined his own life. And yes, he did. Technically, he did. But he was also 17. Reverse the roles for a second. Again, forget about race, but reverse the roles. Austin Metcalf did it to Carmelo Anthony. Austin Metcalf, he's guilty. So is Carmelo Anthony. He's guilty. At that point in time, it is a travesty because they're both 17 and their instincts, their primal instincts, gave way to adrenaline. And their morals were superseded by that confrontation, by the heat of the moment. It happens all the time. I've been in fights and scraps before. Sometimes you really don't think. And you know how many times, thank God, I walked away from those moments where I'm like, damn, I overreacted. I might have scolded somebody just yelling at them at the top of my lungs. And I felt so bad about it afterwards because I'm like, damn, I overreacted. That was not warranted. It happens. I apologize. I pray to God and I walk away from it. In this case, this kid's 17 years old and he stabs him. Again, why do you have a knife? Why did you use the knife? Let me ask you this, right? Should Carmelo Anthony have gotten no years? I just don't know. It's such a compelling case. Him refusing to leave, honestly, that's on Austin Metcalf's, end. Because at that point, he's kind of trying to bully him. It's raining. Forget about the stabbing for a second, but you're kicking him out. Like, at this point, you're just being a jerk. Who provoked this situation? Of course, that's important. But ultimately, the only thing that we can prove here is that Austin shoved first. At least these are the allegations that are believed in court. Austin shoved first. Carmelo Anthony takes out a knife and stabs him. Apparently, there were other places people used to get out of the ring. But Centennial, which was Carmelo Anthony's team in high school, reportedly did not have its own tent. Centennial had been in a baseball dugout nearby. A Centennial teammate testified that their team was hanging out in the dugout of the adjacent baseball field while they waited to see if there would be a rain delay. But he said that they had to leave the dugout and Centennial didn't have a tent. Then the rain picked back up and the team dispersed. Some athletes from other schools went back to their buses. Memorial's coach testified there was no official rain delay. Memorial athletes were mostly under their tent, and some other schools' athletes went back to their buses. A Liberty High School student testified that Liberty had a tent right next to Memorial's tent, and the defense brought out that Liberty's tent was getting crowded because people were hiding from the rain. So what? That's why you're going to get mad that people are going under your tent? It's a fucking track meet. What kind of shit is that? I live in New York. Sometimes people come on my porch and take respite from the rain. It happens very rarely. But when it does, or somebody sits right there in the front of my house, that happens all the time. I don't say nothing. You just want to sit, man. What the fuck? What am I going to shoo you away? What am I, a piece of shit? But again, I can't blame two 17-year-olds. Some adults are like that. Some adults will be like, get the fuck off my porch. Get out of here. A GoFundMe has been raised for Carmelo Anthony. Over $600,000 so far. They stopped the GoFundMe for some reason. It's called Give, Send, Go. No difference. Tough case. I really don't know what to say about the matter, but it's like, again, it's just like, I just think everybody should really just be taking a step back and understanding both sides of the equation. Because again, they were 17 years old. One responded with a knife. Like, you can't come out of this and say one was right and one was wrong. Both were wrong. Absolutely. Both were wrong. Both were being stupid little kids, which we all have been. I'm not condemning them right now. Everyone has been a stupid little kid, right? And when things escalated, and it's very difficult to parse out how things should go when things are unraveling, you know the level of chaos that's going on in your mind when your adrenaline picks up? Some people can't handle those situations. Some people they go crazy, they go wild, right? Their eyes get bloodshot. I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes. In the heat of the moment. So no, you have to agree that they're about to fight. They probably lose all ability of self-control. Probably. At that point, who's right and who's wrong? I mean, I think the last thing that you're left with, and again, I don't want to condemn the guy, but I think the last thing you're left with, and I'm thinking about, like, if I'm talking to my friends right now, just like, dude, what? The only thing I could say is like, what? Yes, but what? Yes, they're 17. Yes, it's a stupid track meet and it's raining. Yes, it might have been racist. Yes. Yes to everything. To all the facts. Yes, he pushed first. Yes to all of it. But then it's like, but then he used a knife. I just can't see why that's justified. The people that are defending Carmelo Anthony, they're not wrong either. They don't want to see another life lost. And by the way, there are people, see, this is when you do bring race back into it, because unfortunately, we've seen our justice system be way too inconsistent on these cases. Because again, you will see someone like Trayvon Martin or the other list of endless examples where you will see people acting in self-defense. And of course, I put self-defense in air quotes here. But you see people acting in self-defense for far, far lesser situations or far lesser degrees of extremity. So yes, on one end, it's just like, man, like, yeah, if you reversed races, yes, you could probably make the argument that one is getting a harsher sentence because of his race. Yeah, I could see that. Let's not act like the majority demographic of our prison population is Black. Let's not act like Blacks don't face harsher punishments in general. Treatment by society, treatment by police, treatment while being incarcerated. But again, at the end of the day, I think both sides have a right to be outraged. Both sides have a right to be outraged. Both sides have a right to be outraged. If I'm looking at the strongest argument for both sides, on Austin Metcalf's side, again, they can ask for the moon. They lost the person. You can't tell them shit. When someone loses a child, when someone loses a family member, they have every right to ask for anything they want. They are grieving. It is a fucked up situation over here. On Carmelo Anthony's side, I can totally see them looking at this verdict as being unfair insofar as the cases that we've seen that have been deliberated historically have long said that instances like this should be regarded as self-defense. I can see that argument as well. But I can't, no matter what, and this is me just being very casual about it. No matter what, if you don't have all the facts of this case, whether you do or you don't, at the end of the day, it's going to be extremely hard to see past someone pushing and someone using a knife. That's it. That's it. That I rest my case there. It's such a fucked up situation. But that's how it goes. I mean, and it's super unfortunate, but I mean,